All right, let's dive into it because Super Bowl 59 is almost here. And this is going to be one heck of a showdown. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. And while the Chiefs are coming into this game as slight favorites, I honestly think they should be favored by more. I'm not saying the Eagles aren't a great team, but there's one particular factor I think could make all the difference. Familiarity. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and some of the key players on the Chiefs have a solid understanding of what the Eagles are going to throw at them, especially with the presence of some familiar faces on Philly's coaching staff. I'll get into that in more detail. But first, let's just take a moment to appreciate the magnitude of what we've got here. Super Bowl 59 is going to be an absolute spectacle. So let's go back to Super Bowl 57, which was a rematch between these same two teams. It was a thrilling, high-scoring game, and the Eagles came out strong, put up 24 points in the first half alone. They dominated early, with Jalen Hurts doing what he does best, running the ball effectively. The game started with the Eagles doing what they do best, the infamous tush push on the opening drive, followed by a gorgeous 18-yard touchdown pass from Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce. The game was tied at 7 at that point, but things took a turn when Harrison Butker missed a 42-yard field goal attempt, which would have given the Chiefs the lead. The Eagles made them pay, responding with a 45-yard bomb to A.J. Brown, and just like that, they were up 14-7. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. But right when the Eagles seemed to be on the verge of taking control, the Chiefs defense stepped up, and Nick Bolton made an incredible play. The Eagles were driving, and it looked like they might extend their lead to 21-7. But Bolton read the play perfectly, stuffed the quarterback draw, and forced a fumble, which he picked up and took 36 yards to the house. That was a huge momentum-shifting play. The game was tied at 14, and from that point on, it was a back-and-forth battle. Despite the Chiefs' resilience, the Eagles weren't done. They continued to score, and by halftime, they had built a 24-14 lead. It was a 10-point deficit for the Chiefs, but the second half is where things got interesting. Kansas City came out with renewed energy, and they quickly started to chip away at the lead. Isaiah Pacheco had a short touchdown run, but the real momentum swing came with the Chiefs' special teams. Kadarius Toney, who had struggled a bit during the season, came up with one of the most iconic plays in Super Bowl history. He took a punt 65 yards, switching fields and zigzagging down the sideline for a touchdown. That set the Chiefs up for a big play, and they scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, one from Sky Moore and another from, yes, Kadarius Toney. That's right. The same guy who had the longest punt return in Super Bowl history ended up catching a touchdown. With 5 minutes left in the game, the score was tied at 35, and it was anyone's game. The Eagles then answered with another touchdown, taking a 3-point lead. But Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs weren't done yet. They put together a 12-play drive, and one of the key moments in that drive was Mahomes' gutsy scramble. Despite a sprained ankle, Mahomes took off up the middle for a 26-yard run, putting the Chiefs in a great position. Then they found themselves on a crucial 3rd and 8 in the red zone. And that's when the controversial holding penalty on James Bradbury came into play. Whether you agree with the call or not, it extended the Chiefs' drive and gave them the opportunity to run the clock all the way down to 8 seconds. That allowed Butker to kick the go-ahead field goal. And just like that, the game was out of reach for the Eagles. Mahomes threw for 3 touchdowns in that game, getting sacked 0 times despite playing through a sprained ankle. Travis Kelce was his usual self, catching passes left and right, and Juju Smith-Schuster made some crucial plays. The Chiefs' defense, though not perfect, came up with timely stops when needed. What people sometimes forget about that Super Bowl is just how well Jalen Hurts played in a losing effort. Hurts threw for over 300 yards, and he had an incredible touchdown pass to A.J. Brown. He also rushed for 70 yards and 3 touchdowns using the tush push. His performance was elite, and it showed why he's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the game. On the Eagles side, their receiving corps also made huge plays. A.J. Brown had a monster game while Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert showed up in a big way. The Eagles had the better part of the first half, but they couldn't hold on in the second half as Mahomes and the Chiefs took over. It was an exciting Super Bowl, and now here we are, getting ready for another potential epic matchup. Fast forward to the 2023 season, and both teams have evolved since that Super Bowl encounter. The Eagles made an offseason splash by adding Saquon Barkley, who has been nothing short of spectacular this season. Barkley's addition has given the Eagles one of the most potent ground games in the league. When you combine him with Hurts, who can run the ball just as well, the Eagles' rushing attack is virtually unstoppable. In fact, the Eagles finished the season ranked 2nd in rushing yards per game, and that's a huge reason for their success. Hurts and Barkley combined for over 2,600 rushing yards and 27 rushing touchdowns this season, which is just wild. When your quarterback is putting up numbers like that, you don't need to rely as much on the passing game. The Eagles' passing offense hasn't been terrible by any means, but it's not their bread and butter. With Hurts and Barkley dominating the ground game, their passing game has been more of a complement than the focal point. As for the Eagles' defense, they've been incredible this season. They've held teams to just 17.9 points per game, the best in the NFL. Their defense is solid across the board, but their defensive line has been especially dominant. Guys like Josh Sweat, Fletcher Cox, and Nolan Smith Jr. have wreaked havoc on opposing offenses all season. The Eagles' secondary, led by cornerbacks Cooper DeJean and Quinton Mitchell, has been stellar as well, with the team racking up 26 turnovers on the season. The Eagles' defense doesn't always rack up a ton of sacks or pressures, but they make up for it by being incredibly disciplined, and they've been masters at creating turnovers. The Eagles are built to win in the trenches, and that's where they've found a lot of success. Their offensive line, led by Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, and Landon Dickerson, is one of the best in the league. The defensive line, featuring players like Cox and Javon Hargrave, has been just as dominant. Howie Roseman, their GM, has built this team with a clear focus on controlling the line of scrimmage, and it's paid off in a big way. Beyond just the uniform thing, let's talk about the coaching matchup, because I really think this is where the Chiefs have an edge. This Super Bowl will mark the fifth time two head coaches are rematching in a Super Bowl. And interestingly, out of the previous 4 times this has happened, the coach who won the original game also won the rematch. The coaches who were victorious in the first matchup are a perfect 4-0 in these rematch scenarios. So from a historical perspective, that bodes well for Andy Reid and the Chiefs, right? But as much as I love these kinds of stats, I'm not going to hang my hat on them entirely. At the end of the day, you have to go out there and play the game. It doesn't matter what happened before or what the trends say. It's all about execution on the field. Offense, defense, special teams, all 3 phases matter, and that's where the Chiefs will have to shine. That said, I do think coaching plays a major role. And when it comes to big games, I favor Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo over Philly's coaching staff. This is no disrespect to the Eagles coaches, who are undoubtedly talented, but when the lights are the brightest, Reid and Spags have consistently gotten the job done. They've been here before, and they've been in these high-pressure moments more than a few times. Andy Reid, in particular, is one of the best in the business, and I have full confidence in him and his ability to lead this team. I'm not about to lose faith in Reid, Spags, or the rest of this coaching staff now. Here's something that might be even more important. Patrick Mahomes has never lost to the Eagles' defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio. And I'm not talking about just a one-time thing. Here, Mahomes is actually 8-0 against Fangio, and in those 8 games, he's thrown 10 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions. So the track record is there. Fangio was the head coach of the Denver Broncos from 2019 to 2021, and the Chiefs managed to beat his Broncos teams all 6 times they played. Then when Fangio joined the Miami Dolphins as defensive coordinator, Mahomes and the Chiefs still came out on top twice, once in that Germany game and then in the wild card round at Arrowhead. While the Eagles have a fantastic defense, and I've been giving them props all video long, Mahomes and Reid have proven time and time again that they can handle Fangio's defense. And here's the thing, even though people will argue that Fangio didn't have a great roster in Denver or Miami, the reality is that Mahomes and Reid are very familiar with his defensive schemes. Yes, the players around Fangio have changed, but the core of his defensive philosophy has remained largely the same. This familiarity is huge. It's like facing a defense you've gone up against a few times before. It doesn't matter how good the new players are. The scheme is what you're really prepared for. This is a big advantage for the Chiefs heading into this game. On to another topic that's been getting a lot of attention. Rashid Rice, recently he shared a photo of his Super Bowl jersey, which got fans excited thinking he might be coming back for the game. I'd love for that to happen, but honestly, I don't think it's in the cards. Andy Reid mentioned a couple of weeks ago that it's unlikely players like Rice or Sky Moore will be back for the Super Bowl. There's a slim chance they could open up Rice's window to return from IR. But in my opinion, it's about a 95% chance that we won't see him on the field. His knee is probably just not going to be fully rehabbed and ready for game time. But don't worry, the Chiefs have plenty of firepower even without him. Mahomes still has a number of great weapons to throw to in this game. Kadarius Toney showed out in the AFC Championship, and I fully expect him to make some big plays in the Super Bowl. Travis Kelce, who has had great success against Philly in the past, is going to be a key player. In his last 4 matchups with the Eagles, Kelce has averaged 6 catches for 62 yards and almost a touchdown per game. He's a go-to guy for Mahomes. Don't forget about DeAndre Hopkins, who may have been quiet this postseason, but is more than capable of stepping up in the Super Bowl. Hollywood Brown speed can be a huge asset in man coverage, and Juju Smith-Schuster has shown he can make plays when it matters. Then there's Noah Gray and Justin Watson, who both caught important passes in big moments, like Watson's 2-point conversion in the win over Buffalo. It's going to be an epic game, and I really can't wait to break down all the key details as we get closer. But for now, let me know your thoughts on the game. What do you think about the matchup? I know we still have some time before Super Bowl 59, but the anticipation is already building. Thanks for watching.